Okay. All right, so we'll get started. So, my name's Tristan Rhodes. My day job, I work as a network architect for Weber State University. I have one wife, 3 kids, 20 speakers, and 40 Cat6a network runs at my house. Recently built a house, and it's a great opportunity to overbuild your network. You only get overbuild it once, until you overbuild it in the future. I am a trumpet player, and I have solar panels on my home, and that powers my car, my mower, my snow blower, my heat pump, and then my induction stove. Nerd! So, yeah. So the sun's cooking all my food. And I just want to say I love SAINTCON. I've been to SAINTCON many, many years. And how many of you have been here? This is your first time. Wow, awesome. So this is super fun. There's so many things to do. You guys have seen a lot of things. It's a wide range of trainings, presentations, and all the fun stuff. So make sure you try everything. And it's kind of hard to try everything at once, but that's my recommendation, is try all the things. So my question is, I want to know the audience, how many of you do networking as like your primary role? Okay, about half of you guys. This isn't too technical, so some of you will understand all of the acronyms, and some will understand some of the acronyms. Okay, so the SAINTCON requirements for this network, there's about 1,200 people here, and we don't know exactly how many devices each person's going to have, but typically you've got a phone and a laptop, and perhaps an iPad, and maybe a watch. And this year we did not have badges on the network, which is kind of a change from the past. Previously we'd have the badges would be also competing for airtime, which kind of makes it hard, especially because the badges were all 2.4 gigahertz. For all of the miniature wireless controllers in the past have been 2.4 gigahertz only, and there's not very much bandwidth spectrum for that. So this year, no, badges are not on Wi-Fi. That helped a lot. This building has 3 floors. There's 5 network closets, and each closet has a single mode fiber running to a central location. That's what we use to connect our stuff. And we also had a need for a dedicated fast internet. There's a lot of people. A lot of you guys are doing interesting things, and if we were on someone else's internet, there's a good chance that the fun things you guys are doing will be blocked, or so for educational purposes, we don't want that to happen. So that's why we control our internet completely, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. We also need to be able to protect parts of the network. There's a lot of things going on, there's some areas of the network that hacking's supposed to be going on, and that's good and normal. But we want to protect that from accessing the parts that shouldn't have hacking. And so these are the requirements. Any questions so far? You probably won't be able to read this, but just looking at the colors, the purple on the left is our internet. We have a 1 gig link from Centricom, who's our sponsor of the internet. And the red colors are firewalls. Blue color is our switches. Red are pink, are wireless APs that are provided by Cisco Meraki, and the yellow circles are cameras, IP cameras. You may see some of those on poles around the convention. The big green blob is important to note. We're actually leveraging the wireless infrastructure that the conference provides. Last year they just upgraded to 802.11ac Wi-Fi 5. Is what they call it. So pretty nice APs. There's about 60 of them throughout the conference. We wanted to make sure we could use that nice investment they did. So we actually are using their wireless APs connect through their controller, and their controller comes into our network. And so that's how this is the architecture diagram. We'll get in a little bit more detail. Any questions? Okay, yeah, so Internet Service Provider was sponsored by Centricom. This is a brand new fiber link we got pulled in. Previously it was Comcast. Comcast would give us a gig circuit, and so they did a good job for 3 years. But this year it is now Centricom sponsoring. They gave us the gig link and about 30 public IPs to work with. And okay. The equipment sponsor is Cisco. Actually, Cisco has sponsored the past 4 years or so. I work with Cisco in my day job, and I wanted to try Cisco Meraki because it's quite different. It's different. It's like a much different design and different target market for a simpler experience. And it's cloud-based controller, so you control everything through the cloud as opposed to going to your devices like many of us do. Have any of you used Meraki before? Just a few of you. So I'll tell you about what I like and what I don't like at the end of this. Yeah. No, yeah, we did. So the firewalls, switches, wireless, and cameras, they're all Meraki. Yeah. This is more detail on the parts we used. There's 2 firewalls, 2 fiber switches. Unfortunately, those fiber switches don't have any copper ports, so we also have to get copper switches in there. We have 7 24-port switches and 4 8-port switches. And those all have PoE because we have cameras and access points. We don't know where we're going to put them, so we just did PoE everywhere. And just 1 gig links for our uplinks. The firewall has a capability of 4 gigabits of throughput, which we'll show you some graphs. We're not approaching that limit. For wireless, like I described, the UVCC provides about 60 Cisco 3802s, and we've added 6 Meraki MR55s. Those are Wi-Fi 6, which is pretty cool. And they have built-in dedicated spectrum analyzer radios, which is also cool, and I'll show you how easy it is to see what they do. It's just a couple clicks, we've got a spectrum analyzer anywhere in your network. This is something that we have, but we haven't used this year. It's just a wireless testing tool called the AirCheck G2. I think it's now owned by NetAlly, but it was previously NetScout, and I think before that maybe even Fluke. So that helps us find the bad hombres on the Wi-Fi. Last year we actually did use it. We were able to physically locate somebody in the conference when their device was doing bad things, and we were able to use a directional antenna, walk around, and look for the strong signals, kind of like a hot and cold game of cold. So that's available. Hopefully, won't need it. As far as SSIDs, we actually have 4 of them, and one of them we got working this morning. So SAINTCON is what most people use. It's just a pre-shared key, and its purpose is for the users. And it says the frequency is 5 gigahertz mostly. I say that because the UVCC infrastructure is running 5 gig only, but our Meraki stuff is running dual band 2.4 and 5. So there's not too much. We don't want 60 access points on 2.4. That would just not be smart. There's only 3 channels that are non-overlapping. So Eduroam, how many of you use Eduroam? So Eduroam is so cool. Like Eduroam is a kind of a shared network where you can, if you see Eduroam, you can connect to your home institution. You can authenticate to your home institution. So if you have a university credentials, you can go anywhere in the world you see Eduroam, you can authenticate and get on the internet using your university credentials. And it's not just universities, it's also growing to other institutions as well. So you'll see more and more Eduroam. I think they just got it on FrontRunner. And so, and it's going to be in many more places. So keep your eyes on that. That's super cool. The best thing about Eduroam is if you showed up here and you didn't know anything about what the Wi-Fi was like, you would just automatically connect because you had your Eduroam already in your phone, and your authentication credentials already there. You're just going to be on the internet. So Hacking Island. This is a special request that we had for a training session. They wanted the users to be able to hack their server and nothing else. So we created a new SSID. And then of course access rules to restrict what they can connect to. Oh, client isolation. Do you guys know what that is?
I do now.
Yeah. So client isolation prevents wireless users from talking to each other. And we like to leave that on as a security mechanism so that people aren't accidentally sharing things or attacking their neighbors. And it also uses up the limited amount of frequency available in the air. And then so Eduroam is the one Eduroam we just got working this morning. So the last one is called Betazoids. Does anybody know that reference? Betazoid? Yeah? Star Trek fans? All right, good. We got some Star Trek fans. Betazoids is a race in Star Trek. They're empaths and they can read minds. And the reason I had to create this was Dave Packham had a robot that he wanted to control. Maybe you guys saw that little robot tank driving around. He wanted to be able to look at his camera and drive it around and shoot people. And I said, that sounds like a good idea. And so the problem was the client isolation was blocking his phone from talking to his robot. So we created a new network. This network has just a few clients on it. People have special needs that need to talk to each other. So client isolation is turned off. Any questions about the wireless networks? Okay, so IP cameras. We have 10 cameras. These are 1080p. They have person detection, which is kind of cool. Cameras have had motion detection for a long time, but you don't want just all motion. I have these set up to trigger an alert when a person is detected in our central network room, because really there shouldn't be anybody in there, and if there's someone in there, I want to know what they're doing. And yeah, so that's a really cool feature. Oh yeah, this will be my first demo. So we have the 10 cameras. Let's see what I can find here. So I won't spend a lot of time showing these, but there's a cool motion search feature where you can select an area you want to watch. Like if you want to know when this thing was stolen, you just do that, and then pick your time frame, and then it'll show all the times there was motion in that particular area. So if this was something that was like after hours, you don't have to like scrub through, overnight. Well, what time in the night was this stolen? It would automatically say, oh yeah, there was motion at 4 a.m. and it's now gone. So that's kind of a cool feature. Any questions about the cameras? Do any of you guys manage cameras at your institutions? Yeah. Yeah. They're important. Okay. Okay, now we're going to talk about some things I liked about Meraki. This is really cool for a SAINTCON presentation. How long does it take you guys to get a packet capture? Let's say a client, a user says, I'm having problems. It's kind of, now, things aren't working well. And let's say you've done all your normal troubleshooting. Now you're to the step where you want to get a packet capture to find out what's happening. Like how long does that take you to set up a packet capture?
10 minutes.
Yeah, 10 minutes, yep. If you have to go on site, longer. Yeah, if it's in the same building as you, maybe 10 minutes. So this is really cool. I'm going to show you how to do a packet capture in just a few clicks. So I'm going to start with searching for a client that I found on here. The client's host name is Kraka. So we'll click on that host. And we're going to click on this button called Packet Capture. And so it's already set up on this switch, on this port. So it's going to start a low verbosity packet capture. This is just to see if we have any traffic right now. Let's see if we do. Okay, there's some traffic. If you want to, you can actually download this as a PCAP file and see the actual packet capture as if you were plugging in right there, or you did a mirror port, span port. Like, I just think this is amazing. Like anywhere on your network, you can be packet capturing in seconds. It's going to really help with troubleshooting. Okay, next thing. Okay, the spectrum analyzer. This is also cool. Let's go to an access point. I can't remember which one this one is near us. I'm just gonna pick one. Wow, 93 clients on that guy. Let's look at that one. 93 clients. Let's see if we can see what the spectrum looks like. So click on RF. Actually, maybe I have to bounce through here. RF spectrum. So this shows you the channel utilization. That's nice, but wouldn't it be cooler if you could see this? This is the 2.4 gigahertz band. This is like the instantaneous spectrum analysis, and then of course this one that's coming down is the historical. You can basically see we've got a pretty busy channel here. But it's not too busy. If you did 1 or 11, you'd probably be fine. I'd probably do, 11. Let's look at 5 gigahertz. So about 5 gigahertz looks good all around. We're not having too much interference or noise. How long does it take you guys to get spectrum in like this anywhere in your network? This is amazing. You're talking about the scanning radio? I'm pretty sure it's dedicated. Fact check? Yeah. I think it is a dedicated radio for the spectrum analyzer. So we're not actually taking down production by looking at this. Yeah, that's a great question. Yep. All right, next thing. Okay, this is kind of cool. So I'm working on a small team of people, volunteers, for SAINTCON, and any one of us could be making changes to this network. And you guys have probably worked in places before where you want to know if somebody else is making changes on your network, even if they're authorized. It's like, did you cause the outage, or well, why did things stop working? Well, built into Meraki, you can set up automatic emails where you'll get notified of any changes. Device is offline, so you don't have to set up like a Singa instance to monitor your systems. Meraki will do that for you. So that's been pretty helpful. There's actually a change log. You can click on change log and see, it's like an audit log, basically, of all the changes that happened. So that's very useful. Okay, firmware upgrades. This is super simple. You just schedule your upgrades to happen, and they will happen. You can do them instantly, or you can schedule them, for a maintenance window. If it boots up in the new version and it's not working well, you can roll back in just a couple clicks. So I think I read that it keeps it up to 14 days, the ability to roll back. And when I did that, I upgraded a couple times for this conference, and there was zero problems. It's never been that easy before. So it does build a topology map for you. If you have a big network and you want to know how things are connected, this is helpful. Our network is not very big, but you'll still see. You can sort of see how things are laid out. It's even got the cameras on here, and then the wireless units are on there. All right. Any questions? Oh, okay. Vlan Management was simple. I assume they're using something that similar technologies to what Cisco has, but it's just kind of automated. Now I'm forgetting the name of the Vlan Management tool, but Anyways, this was super easy. I didn't have to, once you add a VLAN anywhere, it's available everywhere, so it automatically trunks your VLAN to all your switches. And you can control which VLANs go over a trunk, which we've done, but by default, the VLAN will be available everywhere. And another feature that we use is we have several servers in our network room that are for Hackers Challenge or various reasons. And those servers, they didn't want the ability to infect their neighbor. This is the same exact concept I talked about in wireless isolation. There's a wired isolation, so you just highlight the ports you want and click layer 2 isolation. And it's basically the same thing as private VLANs if you use that. And so two clients on the same VLAN won't be able to talk to each other with this feature on. They'll just basically get their internet access, which is what is a common request. And that was just super simple. Like this poor teddy bear in his isolation chamber. Okay, you can also get a lot of information about your users, like their bandwidth usage, their host name of their device, their IP, their MAC address, the switchboard they're plugged into, and the domains they access. You can also control those devices really easily, including reserved Dhcp. If you ever have a client that says, I need to have the same IP all the time, well, reserved Dhcp is one way to do that. It basically ties a MAC address to the IP. And you can do that with just one click. You can also set up one-to-one NAT entries. That's what we did for the servers. Some of the servers that are in SAINTCON is they get a public IP, and that's how the outside access is allowed. You can also whitelist somebody if they're getting, if you've set up bandwidth restrictions, you can whitelist them, or you can block them. So we're going to show you something. I found a user called, a host name called Sausage McGriddle. So we're going to look for Sausage McGriddle. Sausage McGriddle is the client. Let's see what information we can find out about this client. Okay, it thinks it's a Apple Mac OS X. It has these wireless capabilities, 802.11 AC. So this device has the capability of getting up to 1300 megabits per second. And this is the bandwidth usage that this device had. I don't know if it's going to be on the map though. So, okay. As far as, are these base features are licensed or? Oh, I actually don't know if these are base features or extra features. I'm hearing that those are just included. Okay, so what was this client doing? Oh, so a ton of UDP. What would you guys think if you saw that your client was mostly UDP? What's it doing?
Either streaming or
streaming. Could be, yeah, could be a streaming. Yep. I was thinking it could be a VPN, like a UDP VPN. So I can click Show Details on this, and you can see the domains that it connected to. So you can kind of get an idea of what your users are doing, for better or worse. I can help you with troubleshooting, of course. Oh, look, you see, here's where I did that packet cache before. We could do that again. But in this case, what I wanted to show you was how you can block the user. I believe this is based off the MAC address. So if you didn't like what this guy was doing, you can block them just with a couple clicks. Remember I talked about reserved Dhcp? That's just right here. You just click on Fix, and it'll automatically assign the IP that it has now, tied to its MAC address that it knows about, and then they'll always get that IP address until they get a new device, or change their MAC address. You can, what else? Oh, this is where you set up one-to-one NAT as well. It's also super easy to do. Any questions? Let's see if it'll ping. I don't know if it will ping or not. Doesn't seem to be pinging. Okay. What's the next thing? Okay, so yeah, it has built-in logging. So typically, if you have network devices, they're going to log locally, and then you need to set up a syslog server to export those logs. And then you need to have a syslog server to receive those logs. And then if you want something nice to look at the logs, you need a log viewing device like the Elastic Stack is great, Graylog is great. But those require extra things for you to set up. If you just want to see the logs and not have to set anything up, that's built in. Let's see, is network-wide event log. And this breaks it out by a type of device. So currently we're looking at logs from all the security appliances. And you can filter these if you want. Currently it's just showing Dhcp leases. Let's look at the switch logs. These are just ports going up and down. Oh, look, here's a Dhcp blocked. So this is actually kind of interesting. So we've enabled Dhcp snooping. Do you guys block Dhcp at your access layer? It's called Dhcp snooping typically. I recommend you guys do that. This is a SAINTCON, so we should talk about good practices for security. And Dhcp snooping is critical if you're using Dhcp, and you probably are. Your clients, any of your clients could become a Dhcp server if you don't have this feature turned on, and they can try to give IPs out to your users. Number one, break your network. Number two, great man in the middle, bounce their packets through. So you want to block Dhcp offers, and that's actually what we see is happening here. The Dhcp was blocked. If this actually was your Dhcp server, you can whitelist this globally, and it'll allow Dhcp traffic through, and that's what we did for our Dhcp servers, which is the Meraki. And in this case, the Meraki is the Dhcp server. Okay, any questions about that logging? Okay, logging's included. That's good. Oh, and here, this is the logs from the wireless. Client associations, here's a transmit power increased and decreased. So it's kind of automatically adjusting the transmit powers. That's pretty normal. All right, let's see what else we got. Oh, this will be Bill's favorite part. Things I did not like about Meraki. There's no IPv6 support at all. Well,
you say that like it's a bad thing.
Yeah.
That just breaks things like printers most of the time.
IPv6, yeah, you may not need it, but it's a good thing to support, especially because a lot of countries don't have as much IPs as we do. We have a lot of IPs, but if you don't have a lot of IPs, IPv6 is needed. So that's one of the downsides. In fact, I'm a little ashamed to admit this, but the past 3 years, or maybe when I think about it, when I was at Weber State also, we've had IPv6 for many, many years at SAINTCON. This is the first year we did not have IPv6, mainly because Tristan wanted to try Meraki. And I realized that we didn't need IPv6, it was just a downside I had to accept. It's also not good if you have complex firewall rules. It does have a firewall, and you can make rules like we did, but it's just not really designed for complex rules. There's no groups, for instance, and there's no packet tracer. If you use Cisco ASAs, there's a packet tracer tool that would simulate what would happen. Would this traffic get through? Yes or no? And you have no idea. So that's something it's not good at. Oh, this is also third thing is there's no outbound NAT pool. You have to use a single IP address for your outbound NAT. And for us, we decided it would be fine, and it hasn't caused a problem. But as you guys know, outbound NAT on one IP is port address translation. You can exhaust all those ports potentially. So if you're really big, you wouldn't like this. And we had 30 IPs from the ISP, but we couldn't use all those. All the users coming out one, then those servers that I talked about have one-to-one NATs, so we have like 5 or 6 other IPs that are mapped through. Okay, this is a picture of me testing this at my home base. I didn't worry about cable management, so no comments on that. But we got the 6 APs, 10 cameras, and 12 switches or so. This is how it's set up in this building. You can see the single mode fiber between closets. In fact, the top of the screen, that's the Centricom ISP DMARC. And so we actually have 2 links from them. It's a single 1 gig fiber, but they gave us 2 Ethernet cords just so that we could plug into our 2 firewalls without having to run over to the firewall and move the uplink. In this picture, the bottom ones are the firewalls. Then we've got the 2 fiber switches, and then the top one is the copper switch, so that we could plug things into the copper. Okay, now this might be the best part of the prezo. Here's the stats from the conference. How many devices have connected? Well, it's Wednesday, and Wednesday morning when I created this, there's been 1,280 devices. And I think the conference has about 1,100 people. So, and these are people that actually did authenticate to SAINTCON using this year's password. Well, I noticed when people started showing up, I saw a bunch of pre-shared key failures. That's because last year's password was SAINTCON 2018. People come on site, like, dang it, it's not working. So, if you changed your pre-shared key to say SAINTCON 2019, you got on. And that was about 1,300 people, 1,300 devices. So what kind of devices are on the network? Well, this is based off of MAC address. So Apple is the highest with about 43%, and second place was Intel with 18%. And then it just gets really low after that. I did find out just recently that Android phones have a MAC address randomization built in. So this information doesn't work when there's MAC address randomization. So it's a privacy feature. So if you add up all these numbers, there's about 30% of devices that are a unique MAC address. MAC addresses have the manufacturer built in. So there's like 30% of the devices connected are using MAC address randomization. So I found that very interesting. Any questions? How much bandwidth have we used? This is actually just yesterday, since it's the second day of the con. I'm going to have to move this talk to the end of the week so we can get more stats next time. But yesterday we were peaking around 600 megabits. And so with a gig link, that's 60% utilization. And this is obviously, I don't know if this is a 5-minute average or what, but I'm sure there's times where we were hitting the gig pipe on an instantaneous point. We'll have to see if next year if we want to go more than 1 gig or not. I haven't decided. And okay, what are people doing on this network? So 34% of the traffic is UDP. And so unless it's a lot of streaming video, my guess was that there were a lot of VPNs, people connecting to VPNs that use UDP, which is a great way to secure your device and your access. I think it's definitely good.
Or they're phoning home for...
What was that?
Or they're phoning home to take care of problems remotely.
Yeah, there are a lot of people that work from home, including me. Yeah. Okay, this is just our sponsors again. Thanks for helping us out with this. And I guess it's open to questions. Do you guys have any questions? The question is the wireless controller doing DHCP? No, the Cisco wireless controller is only doing layer 2 handoff. So all layer 3 is done by the Meraki. Yeah, so they just hand off a VLAN to us for each network. And so that answers your question.
So did you supplement the
Yeah, the question is, did we supplement the Wi-Fi with the Meraki Wi-Fi, and how much? Yeah, we did. I don't know if I really needed to, but last year we didn't. Last year we just used the conference Wi-Fi, and it seemed to be pretty good. I don't think we have any coverage holes, and I didn't see any problems with numbers of clients. I think I saw like the 90 on a client on one AP. That's about the highest I've seen so far. But the main thing I wanted was the spectrum analyzer, so I could see what was happening, and I could see if there was any, for instance, jamming happening. Okay, just to confirm. Okay, the spectrum analyzer, that is a dedicated radio, and so won't interfere with production traffic. And then the other question that was answered was the firewall groups. That's a beta feature, so it's going to be available.
So it sounds like you have maybe 2 or 3 controllers in Cisco. How are you there?
Yeah, so how are we coordinating between the two? We're not coordinating. It's kind of like in the past when you had autonomous APs. Every AP just picked the channel that was best for itself, and so there's no coordination. Basically, it's basically 2 systems. It's the wireless controller for the conference controls all of theirs, and then Meraki's kind of a separate system. So it's like 2 systems, and there is no integration between those. They're on the same layer 2 VLAN, but like I said, I think it's most. I compare it to like before we had controller-based Wi-Fi. Everything was just independently would put things on the wire.
So is the controller a separate unit, or is it built into the APs?
You're asking about the controller for Meraki or for Cisco?
For Meraki.
So for Meraki, there's no dedicated controller. They kind of have. I think I'm actually not an expert on this, but I believe that they have some intelligence built into them. Plus, they use the cloud for their coordination between themselves. Good questions. Thanks for asking. Okay, so that question is what channel width are we using? The conferences, the venues channels are 40 megahertz channels. The ones that I added supplementary are actually 20 megahertz channels. I kind of wanted to sneak in the holes where there was available bandwidth. I didn't want, I think for, when you have a dense environment, you want the smaller channels. You don't want to be seeing a bunch of other IAPs. Okay, I think that's it. If you have other questions, come talk to me. Thanks a lot.